what happens if someone dies without a will in Alabama? In this video, an Alabama probate attorney will explain how the Alabama intestacy laws work, who typically inherits, and the most common problems that families run into when there is no will.
I'm Drew Wenzel, an Alabama attorney, and we help families across Alabama with estate and probate issues. If someone dies without a will in Alabama, their estate is distributed under the Alabama intestacy laws. These laws decide who inherits under Alabama law if there is no will, starting with the surviving spouse and then the children. If there is no surviving spouse or children, then inheritance may pass to parents, siblings, or more distant relatives.
Now let's walk through the most common questions people ask. Details can change based on your circumstances. People often ask, who actually inherits when there is no will in Alabama?
Well, the answer depends on the family structure. Generally, a surviving spouse and the children inherit first. If there is no surviving spouse or children, then the estate may pass to parents, siblings, or distant relatives. Alabama follows a very specific order, and the probate court must apply it, even if it's not what the family expected. On our website, we have included an intestate succession chart, which shows step-by-step what happens in the case of intestacy. Seeing it laid out like this makes it much clearer.
One of the biggest misconceptions that we see is, does the spouse get everything if there is no will in Alabama?
Not always. In Alabama, a spouse may also have to share with the decedent's surviving children, and it can be even more complicated in blended families. If there are children from other relationships, the spouse often does not inherit everything, which surprises a lot of families.
So this question comes up a lot in blended families. What is a child legally entitled to if the parent dies without a will in Alabama?
Well, it depends on if there's a surviving spouse and if all the children are of the same marriage. Biological and adopted children typically inherit under Alabama law. Stepchildren generally do not inherit unless they were legally adopted. So even if someone was raised as a child in the home, Alabama law may not treat them as an heir.
Here's where families run into problems. How is property divided in Alabama when there is no will?
Property is divided in Alabama according to statutory law and not personal wishes. Assets are divided in set shares to qualifying heirs, and often the estate must go through probate before anything is distributed. That process can take time and conflict, especially if there's multiple heirs, real estate, or disagreements.
If there's no spouse or children, people often ask about siblings. Can siblings inherit if there is no will in Alabama?
Yes, in Alabama, siblings can inherit if there's no surviving spouse, no children, and no surviving parents. In that situation, siblings do inherit, typically in equal shares. But siblings only inherit after closer family members are ruled out under intestacy order.
This is another surprise for families. What debts must be paid before heirs receive property in Alabama?
Before heirs receive any property, the estate must pay various debts, including attorney fees, funeral expenses, and taxes. There also may be creditor claims that have to be satisfied before distributions can happen. Heirs do not receive any distributions until those debts are satisfied. In some cases, debt can significantly reduce what's left. Sometimes debts can even eliminate all of the equity of the estate. So to recap, if someone dies without a will in Alabama, the Alabama intestacy laws decides who inherits. Usually the spouse and children first, then the parents, then the siblings, and more distant relatives. And before anyone inherits, the estate must go through the probate process and pay valid debts.
If you're dealing with a situation like this in Alabama, especially if there's real estate, a blended family, or disagreement among heirs, it's often easier to get clear guidance early than fixing problems later. If you would like, you can read the full breakdown on our site, and we're happy to point you in the right direction. Thanks for watching, and take care.